Local leaders have been on edge for weeks now, as we all watch and wait to see how we come through the winter surge of COVID cases driven by the Omicron variant. Nationwide, cases have yet to peak, but here in the Northeast, we're seeing a rapid decline. In New York, the 7-day average of new cases is down nearly 50% from just a week before. Hospitalizations are down more than 20%. In New Jersey, they also saw its daily case count drop to less than a third of what we were seeing earlier this month. Hospitalizations in the Garden State have also steadily ticked down for days. This morning, we take a look at how one New Jersey city is finding success in its fight against the pandemic. We go on the record with Paterson Mayor Andre Sayegh. Mayor, thank you so much for joining us today. It's fantastic to see you. How are you?
Thank you, Ayana. It's a pleasure to see you as well.
Fantastic. Let's start with the pandemic and a milestone most cities can only dream about. Paterson reported 100% of adults have had at least one vaccine dose. So, Mayor, tell me, how did you do it?
So we've been vaccinated since December 28th of 2020, and we haven't stopped. As a matter of fact, early on, what we realized was that there were individuals that were hesitant. So vaccine hesitancy was legitimate in the city of Paterson, especially amongst African-American men. So we recruited African-American men of influence in our city, whether they were in the field of education, athletics, government, and they helped us get the word out. We recorded commercials, PSAs, and we did everything we could to leverage all levels of communication. And I feel like we made some serious progress. And then we also looked to faith-based partners. So we had houses of worship turn into pop-up vaccination sites. We had a Baptist church, we had a Catholic church, and then we went into a number of mosques. So the Islamic community got involved as well. But I feel like we really made significant progress when we repurposed our HIV testing mobile unit and made it a COVID-19 testing unit / vaccination unit 6 days a week in almost every neighborhood. We were bringing it to people who were hard to reach. If they weren't coming to us for the vaccine, we were going to them.
Paterson has long led the state in the vaccination rate, showing success among groups that you just mentioned, groups that typically lag behind. What challenges did you face? How did you get so many people to roll up their sleeves? How did you get them to buy in to your message?
A concern in a community of color is that there may be vaccine hesitancy, which I stated earlier was real. However, like I stated before, we had credible messengers, whether they were in athletics, whether they were in education, whether they were in a faith-based institution. We wanted people to know that the vaccine is safe and effective. I made sure I made it a point to get vaccinated and put that out on every social media outlet, recorded a commercial. We recruited a dear friend of mine, Harold Reynolds, who played for the Seattle Mariners, is now on the MLB Network. We did a commercial. It's still airing on television just to emphasize the importance, because it's one thing to be vaccinated. Now we want people to get boosted, because with this new variant, we've seen people are getting sick. It's highly transmissible. But again, the vaccine has proven its worth, and the booster is even better.
Absolutely. So Paterson schools, I want to talk to you about them a little bit. They've been remote since the start of this year, 2022. Kids will be back in the classroom soon. So can you talk a little bit more about the decision to keep students at home for the past couple of weeks?
Ayana, as a parent, I want to see my children get back into school as promptly as possible, but I also want them to be safe, all children to be safe, all staff to be safe. So we made a decision. Our public health officer said it would be wise at this juncture to make sure we err on the side of caution and just continue to emphasize that we want staff, we want students who are eligible to get vaccinated. So we've made more of a push on the 5 to 11-year-old category to get them vaccinated as well. And that's where my children fit in as well. So my wife and I want to be leaders by example.
Yep, appreciate that. Leaders by example. So one more issue I want to dive into. This past week, the White House launched a website for people to get free COVID tests delivered to their homes. Have you heard of anyone locally in Paterson having problems with ordering their tests?
Well, we haven't heard any issues. However, we have a pharmacy that goes above and beyond Chief of Pharmacy. They actually, as a matter of fact, I was going to show you an example. They delivered some to me so that I can deliver to my constituents. So here on the ground level, you see people who have been on the front line since the onset of this once-in-a-century crisis they want to do our part, or they want to do their part, and we want to do our part.
Mayor, I want to turn now to another health crisis. The city of Paterson recently won a $1 million grant for its Real Fix program, which helps prevent overdoses. So how does the program work?
So here's how it works. We set up a hotline. It's 833-REAL-FIX. And if an individual is struggling with addiction, he or she can call that number, and that individual will be connected with a teledoc. The teledoc will prescribe medication, and then the pharmacy, in this case, it's been chief of pharmacy, the pharmacy will deliver the medically assisted treatment, Suboxone, to that individual struggling with addiction. But it doesn't end there, because, Ayana, we're looking for a permanent solution. After you've received that medically assisted treatment, once you get the Suboxone, we're not going to just leave you high and dry. We want to connect you with a counselor so we could put you on a path to sobriety. So Bloomberg Philanthropy has issued this Global Mayor's Challenge. 631 cities applied. They chose 15 from the world, throughout the world, and Paterson is one of only 15 in the world and one of 3 in the United States.
So how will that $1 million help you now grow the program and scale it?
So it'll help with outreach, because it's a matter of getting people to buy into the program. People are often reluctant, or as I say, service resistant. They don't think they need help, but they do. So we have to get foot soldiers on the streets. There's going to be a lot of costs involved with the Suboxone, right? So we got to pay for the medically assisted treatment. We also have a partnership with Rutgers University. We have doctors on board. We also have a teledoc who's involved in this as well. So there's going to be costs that will be incurred. This is a grant over the course of 3 years. So we want to make sure that not only do we raise awareness relative to Real Fix, but we also take the necessary action to get individuals off of whatever they're addicted to, because we have anecdotal information. There are people that are struggling with addiction that would rather die than suffer from withdrawal. That, to me, is a dire situation.
Absolutely, and this certainly sounds like an innovative solution. Another problem plaguing cities across the country is gun violence. Paterson saw a record number of murders for the 2nd year in a row. So, Mayor, what's being done to address safety in your city?
Yeah, Ayana, so in 2020, we seized 200 guns. Last year, 219 guns. So that's 419 guns confiscated in the course of 2 years. I can only imagine if we didn't take those guns, it would have been far worse. And this is an epidemic within a pandemic across this country. We are hiring 30 new police officers next week. Last month, we actually hired 25 more police officers. You can't necessarily police all your problems away, but we're also looking at bail reform. We're not looking to end it, we're looking to mend it. And I'm sure other mayors from across the country will agree, and maybe even Mayor Adams in New York City. What's happening is individuals who are caught with illegal guns are not getting detained. They're getting released. And very often what happens, they could be the shooter or the individual that's getting shot. And so it's just creating this vicious cycle. So I am going to be introducing a bill. We have a draft in the state legislature to mend the bail reform bill, to reform the bail reform bill relative to gun possession.
Paterson Mayor Andre Sayegh, thank you so much for joining us this morning.